practice data types, right? Now even we basically enabled the copy paste option. So all you need to do is you can copy this and you can go here and create your own program. Let's say day one and data types and 01. So I create my program. So and then start practicing it. So select the Python program here and paste your code, right? Then you run it. So you then start comparing. So initially what happened here, the value is assigned to the variable A, and we are printing that value, right? So that is how you got this. Imagine I want to read the input from the user from the system, from the end user, and stop hard coding like this. What I can do, I want to change it to input. Okay. So then I want to enter my value here. Then I run. So my initial value A, instead of assigning 2, I am getting from the end user, right? So then that is what you are getting here. Similarly, trying to assign larger numbers and then getting the output here. Assigning floating values and then assigning a character to a particular variable, assigning a name to a particular variable, assigning a boolean to a particular variable, assigning nothing, like none, like you have just not defined anything to a particular variable. So this is how you can able to go here with the lab 01, right, day 01, and you can basically go and practice all of this. So mainly, as I told you, try to practice your syntax minimum 5 times, 10 times in the paper. Try to memorize that syntaxes, right? Like you in syntaxes are it's like alphabets. You should have it in mind. It's like the way we learned words and grammar and vocabulary. That is a fixed, right? So it is very important. You need to have those memory with the syntaxes and hands free, so that you will not waste time on that. So, and assigning multiple values to multiple variables at once instead of doing one at a time, you are going to do it all together. And assigning the same value to multiple variables. Now the value of x, y, z are same, right? Because x equal to y, y equal to z. Then finally the value for z equal to same. If you type welcome here, then all 3 variables will print welcome. Similarly, some literals, and then how to use them in the program, booleans, how to validate and check, and collections. Especially yesterday we spoke about list, and then tuple, okay, dictionary, set. Try to understand the difference between them and the practice. So if you practice them, you get a lot more ideas, okay? And then you feel like it is like you are aligned with the programming and you enjoy coding. When you don't practice this, and so the code challenges is a bit of until unless you previously whoever is practiced well, for them it looks easy. The other people who have not started are not familiar with the coding, the fundamentals. For you it makes a bit of difficult because your fundamentals are not right. So simply easy, as I said, I want to basically uh, create as many programs as possible here, so that it will become my library, right? So I go here and say this program, right? Try to maintain the label so that you can revise and it will be there for you to work it out. So when you create that, go back and then practice. I can copy the code from here. Okay. So you don't copy this content. This is for explanation. And even by mistake, if you copy it, you try to put a hash so that it will become a comment, it will not get executed. So otherwise, you copy this code, select Python, and then run it. So what is happening here? So basically, the first one, we set it as a list. So the list is printed here, and the numbers, and the alphabets, and the vowels. So this is the first level. So in the same exercise, if you continue here, then you are going to play with that, examples, and you are extracting the data. There's a lot more varieties here. So try to each one whenever you take something, right? Do not simply just create and leave it. Instead, try to make some changes, extend like a few more items, and or try to arrange in ascending order, descending order, or try to merge them, or concatenate them. So you try to think of options, and if you don't see that solution here, you can Google it or find, like, for example, how can I concatenate? Okay, I would have one more set of fruits. Then I want to merge like fruits collection one and the fruits collection two together. Then what should I do? Similarly, I have a numbers here, and I have another set of numbers. Using these numbers, how can I put them in ascending order? Or using this combination, how can I do a multiplication table? Like number from first list and a number from another list. I want to print the matrix. So there is a lot more things that you can do. So that is why you should not be limited with what you see here. You should be use that baseline and try to create as many examples as possible. Okay. Okay. Next. So getting back to the previous session, like we were stopped at operators. Right? Now we are going to talk more about it, and then we'll continue with. I need to basically. So we are going to start with from the yesterday session wherever we left, and we'll be discussing today all about operators and control flow statements and conditional statements. Okay, so in operators in Python, right? So mainly we are going to look at some of the examples like arithmetic operators, relational, logical, bitwise, assignment, and some extra, mix. So in that, mainly let's go with the first one. As you can see that basically it's all basic, operations that And in Python, by this time, you might know that how to assign a value, how to print it. So on top of that, you just need to use your mathematics to play with, and then you are going to get the output based on this. Similarly, there are few extra operators which are going to give you outcome differently. For example, this regular activity going to give you in decimals, right? Similarly, there could be a situation where you don't want to see the decimals, you want to round it, right? Then in that case, if you use a double slash, you are going to get a rounded value, which is basically so that you don't need to think about the decimals. Other one is concatenation. In this concatenation, basically you can concatenate the strings, in one way. Similarly, you can concatenate the numbers. So you're going to use, this plus symbol to concatenate, and the spaces between if required. So if you want to add anything extra as a constant in between, like this. So anything that goes in double quotes, okay, that is a constant. That means it is going to print as it is. For example, here, the first name is not in double quotes. The reason is this is the variable, right? This is the variable which is assigned here. So instead of printing first name, it is going to print Yvonne. So because this value is assigned to first name. So but here the is going to print as a is because it is in between double quotes. Anything that goes in double quotes, that is going to print as it is. It will not look, the system will not read them as a variable. It will read them as a constant. Whereas if you are not putting anything within the double quotes, the system is going to read that as a variable. Then the variable is going to pick up the value which is assigned to it. Similarly, age is assigned with the value. So that is why the output will be looking like this. So I'm going to give you more examples about that. Okay. So then here I have a labs today. I'm going to show you one by one how the different types of labs that you can practice. I'm just covering the theory, the two high level, because these fundamental things you can easily pick up and you can understand. Getting into control and condition statements. So technically in real life, basically we do things. We do always check, the conditions, and we do always control the things. So how do we control? How do we check the conditions? Those are the things that we are going to check. For example, out of which I want to find something, right? Then I have to go through the conditions, like if this is right, this is met, then I'm going to pick that person. If the age group is this or qualification is that, then I want to find a person, right? So in this situation, we are going to use the conditions, also control flow statements. So let's move on. So how do we write a if condition in Python? So as you see this one, we are declaring a variable which is called num equals to 20, right? And writing if condition in Python is basically anything that is in green, right? The minute you put a hash here, that becomes a comment, and the system will not execute that. So here, if number is greater than 18, and this colon is important, okay? So this is where it will basically try to fill that as a statement. All the statements require the colon at the end, and then we are going to print the statement that the number is adult. So anything that you are going to print at the equal level, the indentation, then this will not treat that as a condition, because though it is looks like after if condition we are writing one print statement as a as an adult, and the another print statement is basically standard print statement. But what you need to notice here, this if condition has nothing to do with this particular print statement, because this is at the same parent level. So here in this thing, one more thing you need to understand in Python very carefully. Indentation is very important. So that means anything that you start with, it should not have any spaces. It need to be go with the tabs, like if condition is the parent. If condition is met, only then I want to do this action. That means I have to press tab and write this condition, so that if a number is not greater than 18, then it will not be coming to here. This will only come to this statement when the number is greater than 18. That means in order to make such a statements, this indentation, like a tab, basically placing a tab before the print statement is very important. Okay, what happens to this statement? Since this is outside of the if statement, this is not going to bother about whether the number is greater than or less than. So that is how you should understand. So basically, try to understand, deep understanding towards the syntaxes, the indentation, and the standards. So how do we write similarly? What is the if else statement? How does it look like? How do we write the code? So what happens here? If the student age is 10, right? For example, if the student age is less than 18, then it goes here, else it is going to go here. So this is how we do the if else statement. So you are assigning a value and you are writing a conditional statements, right? Which is nothing but if and else. So if the variable value contains less than 18, less than or equals to 18, then it is going to print this statement, else it is going to print this. So as you notice, as I told you, for every statement, if it is a if condition or else or or for or while or any kind of statement that you are going to trigger, it requires a colon. So most of the time, basically people miss this and they basically get into errors. So try to write the syntaxes in the paper so that you will not have these fundamental issues. Okay, so in the system you might have seen some code challenges. Basically, that is how you are going to read the value. Instead of basically assigning a value like that, you are going to read it from the system input and validate, and based on that you are going to get the output. So what is the nested if statement? Nested if statements, basically the way you have seen, it basically goes around, like it is continuously checks if the if until one of the condition gets true. For example, a track is the train is going to wait till it gets the signal to land into the reach into the platform. Similarly, airplane, it is going to wait for the traffic control system to give them the signal to go ahead, right? So till then they are going to wait. They are going to check if this happens, yes, otherwise wait. Else, if again this happens, else wait. Finally, there is would be a default. That means they are going to wait there, right? Or they are going to stop. So the if else statements is one thing. For example, if um, you know if the condition gets true, inside you can write one more condition. If a condition fails, if it goes to else, you can again go and check one more if else. So writing a if condition inside the if condition is the nested if condition. Okay, we are going to see the examples, which you can basically see that how it works. So in our real life, these conditions happens in all the time, right? So that is how it basically life works. Similarly, you can also feel that if there is a power supply, right, the power station in the village, then you can have a generator, right? If there is a generator, then you can, if they're connected with the power station and the power is coming to generator, then you can check again if it is a night or day. If it is a night, then automatically turn on the lights. So you can have conditions inside the conditions. That is where you go for nested if conditions. Look at the statement again here. You are assigning a value, right? Value equal to 10. If a value equal to 10, this condition is not good. Generally, if a value equal to 10, then there is no, yeah. So it need to be less than 10, we need to check, or greater than, there is no point of checking. Assume that this a value is 50. And if it is less than 10 and greater than 12, you can write here. And then less than 10 or greater, then you can write something else, and else you can write something else. So writing a if condition inside the if condition, you need to do it. So one more thing you need to observe here. For example, the if condition first one is begun with in this root level indentation. There is no spaces or tabs, right? So it is started here, and then there is a colon, followed by you are going to press the tab and you are going to write the child if condition here. That is basically a less than 15. And then if this condition is satisfied, basically this condition going to get executed only when this is going to be true. Similarly, this print statement will be executed only when this condition is true. For example, and one more thing here, this condition will not execute based on this condition, right? This condition will be when this is failed, uh, this is going to be, so here the way it is written, if this condition is true, then this is going to be executed. Again, it will be checked here because this is not else. So there's nothing to do with this statement, like whether this gets executed or not, this will be executed. So these are all is basically parent of this particular condition. All this will be checked only when a equal to 10. If not, nothing will, it will not go to anywhere, like not even, it will not even think about the else, because this else is belongs to this if statement, not belongs to this if, right? Okay. Next one. So these are the kind of programs that I have it in the labs that you are going to work with and then practice, so that we can discuss if we come across any issues. Otherwise, these are very basic things that you can do it. So there are like examples like double equals to, not equals, greater than, less than, equals, all these things that you try to check and see what is the difference, how it works. So talking about one example, in order to check the rating application, for example, we are going to take read the input as float, and the greater than equals to 5.5, then it is excellent. This is how you can write the if condition. And another example is with the problem statement says, test the code from the following example with entering 4.5 and all this ratio. The grade less than 5.5, the program will not display anything, and the grade 5.5 and here it is going to display excellent. Then in that condition, how are you going to write the program? So technically the value going to come from the system. So grade equals to float, you are going to read this value as input, then you are going to check the grade status. So then by to satisfy this condition, we are going to print this as excellent. If else, not excellent, or you don't display anything. Similarly, so writing if else conditions. So if number equals to 1, then you are going to print this. If number equals to 2, you are going to print this, etc. Number equals to 9, you are going to print this, else this. So there is here is the program, a bonus points check. Okay, so the bonus points check basically can be done this way. If the points having 20 here, then you are going to have the exit as this one. If the entrance has this one, you are going to show the output as this, based on the conditions which are given here. The task is basically how you calculate the bonus points, right? So in order to do that, we have to follow this set of rules, and the system is going to give these inputs, and you are going to come out with the output. So let's check one side in here, the guidelines and tips. You are reading the points, and then the points is greater than 1,000, then there is some formula that how the bonus is going to be calculated. So bonus plus equals to points into 0.1, and if some bonus is less than greater than 500 or less than 1,000, then some other logic. Likewise, you are going to use a different logic system to perform the bonus points, and then finally you are going to print them. So always is basically what matters here is understanding the problem statement right, and then reading the values into the variables, and try to calculate this value, values in the different conditions. So mainly where the problem is the way we read the content, right? For example, if it is string or if it is a float, if it is integer, how you can take this input and convert into a variable is the very important beginning. And after that, the logic which need to be performed to calculate the output is another important point. One second now. Okay. So next, going to the next one. So there is another concept called loops in Python. Technically, the loops are happening in every human life, right? And also in the industry. Either you talk about software development life cycle, right? So in software development life cycle, so basically it starts with the pre-sale, right? Like where the user going to, any business people will try to reach out to the customers to ask about the particular sale, like whether there is such a need for them to purchase our software. Followed by they are going to so this happens till it will multiple iterations until the sale converts as a contract. So similarly, they will deal with the list of number of meetings and values till the contracts the contract gets signed. After that, the detailed business analysis happens, and then we get the project requirement. When the project requirement is done in the software industry.
Can't see the screen, sir.
Oh, one second, one second.
It's not visible.
Yeah, sure. Let me find out. Okay, thank you. So guys, anytime when you have issue with the audio or screen, please one of you quickly reach out so that we can correct it. Hope now we can see it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So one second, I'm taking a break. I'm taking a couple of real life and industry examples here so that we are not just looking at the syntax and examples and get bored. Mainly, we are trying to partly, you also need to understand how the software industry works and how people execute the projects. So it's better to talk about that and understand and then implement the examples. So you're basically learning two things at once. So in industry, what happens? So after this, then the planning comes into the picture. The planning is there is two ways. One is the project manager or architect. They look at the feasibility of the technical solution. Like there is e-commerce site, for example, somebody the client says develop, project like Amazon or Flipkart. Then this project planning team, what they think about, there is two kind. One is the architect of the system will think about what could be the hardware infrastructure required, right? Can we go to Amazon or can we host the servers, or how do we maintain the cloud? How do we develop internally? What kind of servers required? What kind of software is required? And then which technology do we need to use to develop this? Like, do we go with, PHP, Python, .NET, Java, or something else? So we'll also talk about that in this journey, internship journey, how to pick a particular technology based on the client requirement, right? Very, very important. Like, a lot of people, though they are working in corporate industry, they can't able to understand, when to use PHP, when to use .NET, when to use Angular and all that. So it's very important to understand and learn the architecture of the project development phase. Say today Python could be popular, tomorrow something else comes. But what is important is how you understand the application architecture, right? So if there is a requirement, when somebody says, a client says, I want to develop this as a developer, how can you think about the options and how do you pick the best options and how do you integrate the package? Like for example, front end, we use some Angular or HTML, JavaScript, jQuery, and all that. And the middleware we use C Sharp, PHP, Python, Java, and all that. And backend, we are going to use the database as SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, MongoDB, and all that. So in this, all these varieties, like what combination do you pick, right? Which combination goes there, and when? How do we decide that? So that requires a lot of brainstorming and deep analysis and understanding about these technologies, right? So this one of the sessions I'm going to take and explain you how to choose those verticals. Next here, development sprints, meaning once the project is designed, like assume that the architects has designed. Architects means don't think that somebody from heaven. So it is basically you who has a good knowledge about how to pick the solution, that technologies package which can benefit the customer, which can basically benefit the development team to implement faster and to maintain it well, and which has a future in life, right? So then here what happens? It is going to have um, wireframes. Wireframes means UI where there is you are not implementing it right, but instead you are going to design in Photoshop and some image where how the registration looks like, how the login looks like, how the homepage is going to look like. Those are the wireframes which are going to be drawn as a picture. When you click on it, nothing happens, but there is the business requirement will be transformed as a wireframe to the client so that he will look at it and say that whether that is what he is looking for. See, imagine you have developed everything on the end, like client is going to look at it and say, no, I don't want this, I want something else. Then we are going to waste a lot of time, right? Instead, we are going to sketch out, like we are going to draw the requirement based on our understanding from the client and demonstrate. So that is what happens here. Also, parallelly, we are going to write down all the functional specs, meaning in a home page, do we need to display the products? Yeah, if yes, how many products? What order? Or what else, like what happens when the user logs into the system? All this functional specs will be written here. Then another thing very important in the software industry is the sprints. Like for example, the way we have our internship program, divided for multiple days in a week towards the multiple weeks, right? Similarly, these are called sprints. So in development life cycle, people have sprints like every week. What how much how much can we deliver? How much can we develop? The next week two, what can we deliver? Week three, what can we? Parallelly, in the development, there is multiple teams where people can actually, for example, I'm going to develop a part one this week. Immediately, that is going to go to the testing team, like quality analysts. Those are called QA. From there, which is going to be verified, and then we are going to get the output back to the developer, so that the developer will start working on it. This is how this whole thing works, and then finally it gets to the verification team. When the business owners are okay, then we are going to do the go live and maintain. So that is how the system works. But every part of this have iterations. Like you are going to go in loop till we complete that particular piece. So that is why the loops are important in every programming aspect, because that is how the business is going to be happening. So this is just to understand what are the loops and why do we need, right? So let's go to this. In C language, whoever is familiar with, generally we write this code, right? So if I want to print like 100 numbers, one way is we are going to do this printf 1, 2, 3 like that 100. So obviously, as a practice, then you may have enough patience to enter 100 times. The best thing is using a iteration. You simply can say that do it 100 times, right, till this number. So imagine if I follow this style, right? If I want to print 1 million numbers, right? So by the time we type all these 1 million lines, we will, it's like that is the end of the story. Instead, in just I need to write these 3 lines. I would say while a less than equals less than 1 million, and then this is going to increment and print. So in few lines of the code, in less time, quickly things will happen. So that is the reason why we need iterations. That is the reason why we should not do this, sequential process. Similarly, in Python, you are also going to use range in terms of for loop, right? So basically, I'm going to say that set the range for this like 1 to 100, and then I value get number each time that is going to go to this range, right? From it is going to print that 1 to 99, or some situation it can print up to 100. So that is how you are, in simple words, you are going to do it this. So in Python, so for while statement, you are going to do this way, and for using for loop, you can do this. So another concept is arrays. So in arrays, basically, I want to talk about the concept first, and then you are going to see that how that can work it out. Um, so I'm covering multiple topics today, and we want to basically try to cover as much as Python next week. I mean, the next session. Mostly next session we'll be talking more about object-oriented concepts. The reason we are basically trying to complete the Python, quickly, because we want to really get into data science and spend more time. And at the end, we want to do some micro projects to understand how the artificial intelligence works, how we can able to develop the projects and all that. That is so that is the main goal. At the same time, without understanding these fundamentals, if you try to learn those, there is no value. So let's get into the. So you see, like the way that is the things. Sometimes it is in this order. Sometimes it's kind of bubbled up. People are here and queued up. And if the queue is basically these rows, right, and columns, it gets more, I cannot see everyone, and it's not easy to take out those people, right? So for example, I want to take out this person from this second row. Until unless without disturbing the first 2 people, I cannot take out, isn't it? So then how do we avoid this? So the concept of arrays in programming basically help you to go by index, like this row index of 3 take out, right? So that it is going to be taken out without disturbing these other people. So let's see how that works. Same thing here, like in real life, anything that you have indexed in a row or column, one top of other, and when you want to pick something from either from the bottom or from somewhere without disturbing other, then it is a big deal, right? So in the system, if when there is such a case, and if you want to pick it directly from that number, so without counting or without bothering about the sequence and the location, it is going to save our time. Then that will help us to basically process the things quickly, right? That happens everywhere, right? So anyway, let's get into this. Look at this puzzle. Like for example, this thing is unorganized, so very difficult to basically take out the things. Like for example, if I want to take out this car, is it possible? There is no way. because it is not organized, it is not indexed. Whereas this one, though there are so many here, it is well organized, well indexed, so I can take out any of the car without basically um, disturbing the other one. So that is how the arrays in arrays will help greatly. So next to get into that, the reality about the arrays, how we can work arrays, using arrays in the Python. So technical, as I told you, assigning a values like that is a cumbersome, right? It's going to take a lot of time. Instead, assigning a values like this is better. So using ranges is much better when there are more values. So I assume that in Python we are going to import the array, and then we are going to use this method called array to inject the values inside, and then so this the outcome of this particular declaration, it goes into array1 variable. When it goes there, so what happens, you are going to iterate that for I in array1, and then you are going to get one value, the first value into this x variable. Okay, this particular sentence, the outcome of the sentence is every time go get one value at a time into this variable till the end. So what happens here? You are going to get x value as a 10, and you are going to print. Then next one, x value becomes 20, you print. Next one, x value becomes 30, then you are going to print. So that is how you are going to loop through this till you print all the numbers. So that is where we stop today, and let's go to the practicality. We'll take some of the examples and execute in the system. So we want to share the, 1 minute. Okay, so I'm starting with the labs, day 2 labs. Can everybody see my screen? A notepad is stating that day 02 labs. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here, initially we have seen a couple of these examples in the day 1. So just skip those. So we spoke about arithmetic operators, right? So I have examples here, right? So what I told you, so if I am you, I will go to this arithmetic operators. I take this example, right? And then so I go to this screen, our labs, and then followed by you go to programming playground. So create here. So I type like arithmetic operators. Day 02 -01 create. So then in the labs 2, we have this example which I'm going to take. So I'm going to select my Python, then go here. So here I told you, know, anything that you see as a content, you try to comment that out. That is just for understanding, right? So now we have values like X and Y value, which are assigned here. And then once we execute, all these outputs is going to come down. Hmm? So X plus Y equals to this, X minus Y, all that. And see this one, if you do X, okay, by Y, then you are going to get the value in decimals. When you use a double slash, right? When you use slash slash, so what happens? You are going to get what? Hmm? So you will get um, so truncated value, like it is not going to give you this reminder, like remaining the decimals. So whereas what is this X, 2 times star star Y? So this is basically you are basically doing a component, a square kind, right? For example, if there is a 4 here, it will print as 4 into 4, 16. 4 of the 4, like 4 into 4 into 4 into 4. So, for example, let me show you like one small number, 3 into 1. So, now what happens? Y is 8 because this is going to act like x power of the y. That means 2 into 3 times. So that is why you are getting this value as 8. Similarly, can you see my notepad now? Just wondering, are you seeing both screens or not? Are you able to see the notepad with B02 labs?
No, sir.
No, sir.
So are you still seeing that old one, right? Maybe. Okay. So how is it now? I think should be fine. You can be able to see the notepad, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So next we are going to go to comparison operators. So simply, guys, as I told you, if I am you, I would not simply first thing. If the best thing is take this example and type it every line. You type it. Do not copy paste. Um, though you are familiar or you are completely doing first time, irrespective of that, I would say I would recommend you to type this so that you will have that hands-on feeling that you will get familiar and more interactive. You will enjoy doing it. Today it may be taking time, but once you do it, then when you go to from here this example to this example, you will be doing easily, quite easily. Similarly, when you are going further, then you will even much faster and you will remember. Also, number 2, I would recommend you better make changes to this. Like there is some operation going on here. Don't get satisfied with that. Instead, you try to change this with the different inputs. Try to solve this. There is try to solve some problems which can give you a result of some problem statement. okay, using these kind of operations. These are just syntaxes and examples. It doesn't mean that you will really feel the end result. You need to find the problem statements or think about it and solve using this pattern so that it will be more effective. So similarly, there is comparison operators which you can basically try and solve it. And there are logical operators in the lab too that you can also see that, um, what happens here, this knows, like, if you do this and that and whether this is true or not, it is going to tell you, so for example, X and Y, right? You are just printing like that. So, but it is going to feel like this, since those are treated as a logical operators, the combination is going to tell you. So what is the intention of this statement is, okay, let's try to look here, create this. So I'm going to run this. So I go to playground, add the, this one, day 2, day 02. So now I explain what happens here. So the X value is assigned as true and Y value is assigned as false, right? Now I am saying print X and Y is, right, X and Y. So the intention of this thing is, here anyway this is constant because it is in the single quote, it is going to treat you as constant, there's nothing to think about. This thing is going to say false because the intent, the statement, the execution outcome of this statement is X has to be true and Y has to be true. Then it will output will be true. But what is happening here? X is true, Y is false. So the output will be false. For example, if I change this to true, then what happens? My output will be true. Imagine if I change both of them to false. What could be the output? Any one person. What could be the output?
False.
So basically, we are basically taking the logical, like both has to act, okay, same. Similarly, here this is the other way around, right? So one has to be uh, basically acting as we said, other one need not to be, so that it will basically take it as a. So since here both are false, it is returning as. So if I change 1 to 2, what could be the output? So this is true. 2 or Y is. Can you guys hear me? My internet is unstable. So
Yes, sir, I can hear you, sir.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, then other last one is not X. Like for example, if I put, like, for example, sorry, the X value is true, for example, right? What could be this? What is the intention of that? It is opposite. Like if it's true, then it says false. If it is false, it will say true, right? So that is how we are going to check if not, so not operator. So let's go back to the examples. I'm going to show you more, and then I'm going to share that labs anyway today. Then you guys can start practicing those. So bitwise operators, same thing like and or not, all the less than, greater than, all these things you can basically practice those symbols. You can see these operators, the meaning of this, prefix and suffix values. So if there is a, for example, this like x space plus equals to 5, that this is as same as writing as x equal to x plus 5, right? Similarly, the minus, this you just saw it, and this also we know that, right? This is also, this is truncating the reminder, that decimal value. So all this, there is a, originally this is how we know. This is also, you can for the shortcut, and you can also do this. Similarly, you can write this way. Getting into identity operators, right? So this is also, you can basically, the way we have checked logical operators is kind of similar. So you can basically, you can write in plain English, like whether, for example, x is not y1, meaning the x1 value is not equals to y1. So what happens in this situation? Those are both are same, right? This is saying not. That means it says false because these both are same. So if x is basically y1, x1 is y1, then it will say true because both are same. We are saying x1 is not y1, that is why it says false. So similarly, you can write in plain English, the or not statement is, right? This is SMS. This is equal, x2 equal to y2. This is SMS not equals to. So similarly, membership operators, basically you are going to work here with different variables again. So here you can basically check with like statement in SQL. For example, I want to check if there is a h value in this particular x variable. If it contains, then it says true. If it is not containing, then it will say false. So simply you can easily check. Whereas in other programming languages, in Java, .NET, and other, even in C, in order to check if the particular variable exists inside the particular string, it takes a lot of code. You need to write a function, a lot of story. But here, very simply, you can say that h in x, meaning it is so it is checking whether the h value is inside the x variable or not. Okay. Similarly, it is checking now whether the hello is inside the the word itself is basically not inside the x value. Why it is saying? It is also looking at the case sensitive. Instead of capital H, it is small h is here, so it is not going to find. If you change it to capital H, it will say true. So then y variable, there is 1. So basically we are checking 1 in y. So then it will say true. One more thing, guys, here, when you are checking a number, you don't need to put single quotes. When you are checking characters, strings, then you need to place them in single quote. So this is again functions, like you can leave it that, because we have not discussed the function set. I see that most of you doing well, and looks like, how is your journey, guys? Are you able to understand the Python easily and able to solve without any trouble? Is everything is going well in terms of the practice? At least 3-4 people just say how is it, and remaining I can feel that it's a an average. Okay, so going well. A little bit confusing. So okay. So wherever there is a confusion, try to just send it to just submit your queries to me in the group in the private window. So if there is anything else more, we can work it out, or we can have additional class. But if you practice, then you will not have these issues. All you need to do is go back to your lab 01, go and practice every example that is given. Similarly, today I'm going to give you. So it's obviously the syntax is different, and it's a plain English, right? It's comparatively it's much easy to work in Python than any other programming. So any program that you are not sure about, there is a hints are given. Worst case, you can also click on by solution and take the solution and learn from it. I would recommend, though it takes time, nobody is going to push you, right? It's like we are not, completing this internship by Sunday, right? Not tomorrow. We have plenty of time. I would recommend you guys seriously practice all the lab 01 as well as lab 02. Then your feel will be much different. The people who are having a bit of confusion, or going slow, or a bit of taking time, um, that will get away very easily if you can simply practice lab 01 and lab 02. Okay. So other thing I told you, remember this Python is a foundation language which you are going to take you towards the data science and machine learning AI. And so there is it is obviously required to put a lot of energy and time in this Python programming, so that you will enjoy that the journey which is coming. Okay, so if else statements we discussed. Remember, I told you many times, write the syntax in the paper. How do I write if condition? So if there is a statement of expression and colon, then statement. If you write down this in 5 times in the paper, and if you can remember the syntax, then that is good enough for your life. When we have a problem doing this, then we have a trouble in their day-to-day life. So if else, there is examples, and then if else, and nested if also is there here, and loop for loop with reading from from the list, and reading from the range, and loop with the else statement. For example, I do this, and after that, if there is a if this is empty, then what should I do, right? For example, if this sometimes that number list is empty, then what should I print? Then it goes to else and print that no items left, or just reading, and then finally it goes to. So you can also check, like, if the no values are there, it is going to do that. If there is a values, it is going to print, and finally it goes to here. And in this, like, I have a list of names, right? And how do I find a particular person with this name? So if it exists, it says it is going to print, and then so it's also look at the break statement. Why do we need a break statement? Because we don't want to make the system busy after whatever the work we assign to the system, which is once after it is done. I am telling the system to find out the James, right? Assume that this is the first name, and it is going to quickly find out here itself and give prints. Then why should it need to go to here and here to check whether the James is there or not? No point, right? So in order to exit from the program, once the condition is met, then we have to write a break statement. Similarly, the while statement. So this is the syntax, and you are going to go on. You take the number from the system. So technically the system is going to send in hackathons, right? Automatically, you are going to pick that value based on the test cases, and then you are going to use that and print it out. So while loop with else, for example, when you are done with this, then what to do? Similarly, reading the string into a variable. So it is going to read every character, right? From here to here. Each time it is going to get one character into a variable. The character is going to be printed here. Okay. So for example, when you're looking for I, right? So in this loop, when value equals to I, when that is found it to be true, then we are going to do the process. We are going to exit from the for loop by using this break statement. We're going to print that and then come. If we don't use the print statement, I mean break statement, it is going to go till here, which is no point, right? System will be busy. It rather need to serve the. So it is all about writing a best code. Okay. In software industry, you need to write down these terms called best practices. Okay, number one, you like Python best practices or SQL best practices. All these things, when you people say that best practices, those are most optimized under industry standards. Number two, guys, write down this naming conventions. Like I'm going to give you some headlines which you try to research and learn. Best practices in whatever the technologies that you talk about. Very important. Number two, coding standards. So coding standards is a term used in even Microsoft, okay, on Google or Amazon, all the big companies. So the person who, everybody writes code in the end, right, somehow. But the person who basically follows the best practices and coding standards, those will be valued very high. So you try to understand the term called coding standards. Number three, naming conventions, okay. So naming convention is also very, very important. So that means it is nothing but how do you write your code, right? How do you write your function? How do you write your keywords? How do you write your variables? How do you assign your variables? Like there are two types of naming conventions. One is called Camel, other one is called Pascal. Okay, Camel is nothing but the way camel looks like. It looks flat and up, right? So it is going to be like the way from the the way from end to the start looks flat and then up, meaning. So if I write this example, for example, let me take a two words thing, first name as example, right? So let me type this thing as I want to write first name. If I write first name like this, then this is going to be a camel. If I write my first name like this is a Pascal. What is the definition? The difference is here, this is a flat, and representing the main important factor becomes up, like the way camel looks, okay, flat and up. So camel case. The Pascal basically first letter, the sounding letters, both of them are sounding. So first one is a capital and the next sounding letter is capital. That is how the Pascal naming. So naming conventions are defined. So what you need to do, you need to understand while you are writing code, make sure that you learn from with the industry standards. So that in interviews they only look at those very high level, in detail, and that is where you have a lot of value. Okay, so one more thing here, guys. Continue keyword. This keyword is all about. Though I have seen that I value here in this, it is going to continue. If I say break, it will exit. If I say continue, it will continue. Okay. Next. So getting into functions, that we'll do it in the next session. So that's all for today. So this I'm going to share this labs 02 in the WhatsApp group. So like I said, anytime when you get a problem, you try to post in private chat or in the group, then one of us will try to address. And more than that, I would say 5 times each syntax is very important. Following this industry standards is important. And solving every example from this in this playground is very, very important. And manipulating every example with the different inputs and with the different ideas is very, very important. So any questions, guys, for the today's session?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. So if anyone have, anyway, it is all open anytime when you have issues, guys. So just post it, and I think there is enough help in the system. What do you guys think about those problems? Is it too, I mean, difficult or moderate, or is it it's okay to handle, or you can adjust, or what? I mean, that could be a polling. Like, how many people think that the questions which are there is very difficult? It should not be like that, because we have basically not given tough questions there. It is quite easy and moderate. If you're still feeling kind of bit slow, or maybe a first time users never basically practiced programming at all. If you are good in either C, Java, anything, this will be much easy. If you have not practiced any of the programming earlier, then still it is quite easy. Only thing you need to do is, as I said, practice lab 01, lab 02, and next labs which are coming, then you will be set to go good. Okay.
Okay. See, now there is one polling actually launched. Just I want to know actually, like you already worked on on the tool. So just I want to take a feedback on the tool itself. Okay. So just now you can put how is the Hebion tool? Great, uh, average, and good. Now you can start polling. Who is going for good actually? Like I want to have a feedback on, like what is that you are lacking on that, and what is that improvement you are looking at, and what is that you have doubts. So put it on the WhatsApp chat, so that we can clarify all your doubts. Thank you very much. Can we close the day? Or can we close it for the day, Shankar? Okay, thank you.